This is Mark Lazell and you're watching Sport and Acons.
Now, of course, outside of my own unbiased professionalism and, of course, unwavered expertise on boxing, yeah, and what? There's only really a few people that I've re-listened to when they broke down what Oleksandr Usyk done well, what Anthony Joshua didn't do very well, and what Anthony Joshua needs to work on going forward into the rematch, that I've kind of re-listened to and thought, you know what? I totally agree with everything that you've said. Don't be wrong, I've listened to a complete load of waffle from people as well inside the boxing, or at least from my perspective, it's complete waffle. But as I said, you know what? With my unwavered expertise, I know what I'm talking about, right? Now, I think that Spencer Fearon, I thought that he broke it down very, very well. I thought Roy Jones Jr. broke it down very, very well as well. But of course, for me, I think that one of the best breakdowns has come from Peter Fury. I really do. Not that, of course, I've watched everybody's. Of course, I don't. I mean, I don't have that much time. But I think Peter Fury, the way that he broke down what Anthony Joshua needs to work on, what Anthony Joshua did wrong, and of course, full credit to Oleksandr Usyk coming from Peter Fury, is absolutely spot on in my opinion. Now, I like Peter Fury, and I ain't gonna lie, there's not too many people out there that I'm a bit of a fanboy of. I am a bit of a fanboy of Peter Fury. I think that his track record speaks for itself. He's one of these people who will just tell you exactly how it is. Doesn't matter whether or not you agree with him, that's his opinion, and he's going to tell you his opinion. And for me, he's one of the very few people that I can look at in boxing when they speak and give their knowledge on certain fights, fighters, breakdowns that I can't challenge, because who knows boxing better than Peter does? Peter's been involved in boxing ever since he was a kid. In and out the gyms, putting on the gloves himself, training fighters, being around people, just talking boxing. He lives and breathes boxing. And as I said before, look at his track record. Tell me I'm wrong. Okay. Now, I'm going to go through a lot of the statements that Peter Fury has put out on his social media account, on his Twitter account. And I think a lot of you will totally agree with what Peter Fury has to say. Unless, of course, you're one of the extreme Tyson Fury fanboys. Oh, there's only one Tyson Fury. Anthony Joshua got exposed by Usyk. That means that Tyson Fury is the best of all time. There's a lot of those people around. What can you do? Anyway, so this is what Peter Fury had to say. And of course, they're all broken down over like the last couple of days through random posts from Peter Fury. So I'll just go through all of them, okay? And this is what Peter Fury had to say. Firstly, well done to Oleksandr Usyk. What a win he's just had. Commiserations to Anthony Joshua. He put up a great fight and took on the best. Credit where it's due. It was a lovely heavyweight masterclass of boxing by Oleksandr Usyk. There's a rematch clause, so AJ will go again. Real fights are back, and that's all good for boxing. A loss is no big deal, it's how you lose. Dare to be great, fight the best, get wet, reevaluate, and keep learning. One fighter, one fight coach is all you need. History tells us that much. When someone fights their heart out and comes up short, how they wrote off amazes me. Mad sport boxing at times. The phrase only as good as your last fight rings very, very true every time. Good or bad, boxing is alive again. Adjustment for Anthony Joshua. Number 1, better variation on the jab. Number 2, know how to use correct angles to walk down. Number 3, know when hands go up and hands go down. Number 4, how to read feints and respond. Number 5, the body attacks. Number 6, use size properly. Number 7, make smaller man work without landing. In reality, he's got at least 10 things to work on. You can't just walk down Usyk. He holds power, and southpaws have double when you walk into them, more so than orthodox fighters. It's not what Anthony Joshua did wrong, it's how good Usyk is. To step up to that level, AJ needs more tools in his bag. Peter Fury's statements. Now, could anybody break down that better than what Peter Fury done? I don't think it's possible. Now, of course, a lot of people, and myself included, when I said about potentially if Anthony Joshua wanted to either A, leave Rob McCracken, or B, just spend a little bit of time with somebody. Of course, I suggested to Anthony Joshua, gym hop for a little bit. Spend the next few weeks just spending like 2 or 3 days with various trainers around the UK. Pick their brains, see what suits. And I said that Peter Fury would certainly be one of them. Is it a reality? Is that something that could happen? I have no idea. I mean, obviously, I don't think Peter Fury could train Anthony Joshua full time. Of course not, because obviously there'll be a bit of a conflict of interest. Because obviously Peter, he's going to want his son Huey at some point fighting Anthony Joshua. And of course, that fight will happen one way or another at some point. Okay, so of course, there's going to be a bit of a conflict of interest. But maybe Peter could help out or maybe train Anthony Joshua for this Usyk rematch. Is that something that Peter would be willing to do? I have absolutely no idea. But at the end of the day, Peter Fury, he likes to work with switch hitters. Okay, look at his fighters. They all know how to switch hit. Anthony Joshua, we've never seen him switch hit. We've never seen him turn and fight from a southpaw stance. We've never seen it, have we? So I think long term, it's probably not the ideal partnership, but I think certainly for maybe this Usyk rematch, Peter Fury would be ideal. As I said, I don't know if Peter Fury would even entertain that idea. Maybe Anthony Joshua would either. I really don't know. But I think that the way Peter Fury broke it down is absolutely spot on. And as I said before, Peter Fury, who could dare challenge him on anything that he says? Look at his track record. Look at his resume. Look at how he gets his fighters fighting. The way that they fight, they put on mature performances. They go in there, they're relaxed. They know the game plan. They listen to the game plan. In between rounds, they listen to Peter. They trust Peter. And that's what you need from a coach. And for me, one of the biggest things that I totally agree with Peter Fury was his fourth point, which is how to read feints and respond. There's so many fighters out there flinch when somebody feints. They walk backwards when somebody feints. What do you do when somebody is using feints in front of you? What do? So many fighters don't know how to do that. Huey knows how to do that. Savannah knows how to do that. Tyson knows how to do that. Of course, there's a few more. Oleksandr Usyk also knows how to do that. It's not just a case of somebody moves a little bit, feints a little bit, and you quickly get out of range. No, there's a way to look at it, read it, and as they do it, follow up with something. Follow through with something. Peter Fury is absolutely correct. And of course, the body attacks as well. There were very, very few body attacks. And it's pretty obvious for anybody who knows even just a minute bit about boxing, if you're fighting somebody with speed, you slow them down. How best to slow them down outside of knocking them smooth out? Hit the midsection. Hit the body. Take the wind out of them. I'm not saying one crack to the gut and the wind's going to leave. No, not of course that doesn't happen. You do it over the first few rounds. So as the rounds goes on, they slow down. At this point, hopefully you have enough in your tank where you can just jump on them. Unfortunately for Anthony Joshua, when it came to Oleksandr Usyk, it was Anthony Joshua that, even though he didn't do too much in this fight, let's be honest, was breathing heavily. He was in that moment, and I know that moment very, very well, which is you're trying to find new holes in your body to try and breathe through, because you can't breathe through your nose or your mouth properly, okay? You're trying to think, can I breathe through my ears? Can I breathe through my ass? And it's a horrible, frightening feeling. But of course, Anthony Joshua, he does need something that I would add to Peter Fury's list, is he does need that dog back in him. He's got that dog in him. He's got that aggression, that nastiness, that spite. He's got it. We've seen it many, many times before, but lately he seems to be leaving that kind of mold and turning into a boxer. Anthony Joshua is not a natural boxer. Anthony Joshua is a very good boxer. He's a very, very good boxer, but he's not a natural boxer, if that makes sense. He's a fighter. You stand there in front and you trade. That's what he does naturally. But of course, because he's been hurt on a couple of occasions, maybe he's a little bit apprehensive about coming forward. Maybe he's a little bit worried about getting clipped. And I think that's probably a good thing in many ways, because at the end of the day, I think if a fighter has some kind of fear in them, then they're going to adjust their style. Because obviously you can't just march forward, throw bombs and hope that you land before your opponent. You can't always rely on your chin. You can't take a couple to land one. There's too many fighters out there that do. Too many fighters rely on their chin. Ain't nobody got a iron jaw. Nobody, I don't care who you are. At some point you could get clipped, and it doesn't always have to be by a big puncher either. You get hit on that button and you'll have smoke coming out your boots. So Peter Fury broke it down absolutely spot on. And yes, Anthony Joshua deserves a lot of credit. Peter Fury is correct. Boxing is alive again because we're seeing two fighters, Anthony Joshua, Oleksandr Usyk, at the top of their game fighting together. And there's always going to be one winner, one loser, outside of the occasional draw, of course. And sometimes at the top end, you're going to see one person do an absolute demolition job on the other person. And this is pretty much what happened in the sense of Usyk dominated Anthony Joshua. He was the one who found the range. He was the one who was landing the big shots. He was the one who was controlling the distance. He was the one controlling the fight. He was the one conserving his energy. He was the relaxed one. Joshua wasn't. I couldn't explain to you why that is. Only Joshua can come out of it. Was Rob McCracken's game plan all wrong? Maybe yes, maybe no. As I said, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a coach, so I wouldn't really know. My interpretation of breaking down a fight, I kind of see a fighter a few times. I kind of know their style and what they're about, and I kind of see their style of the opponent, and I make a pick. I think this person's going to win, and 99 out of 100, I'm right. But again, boxing isn't that hard to predict, let's be honest. But I couldn't break down a fight. I couldn't really go in depth of the adjustments that a fighter needs to make. Some of them are glaringly obvious. But when it comes to, say, Joshua, for me, just march forward Derek Chisora. Okay, that was pretty much my breakdown of it, of what you need to do in the rematch. Of course, you need to box smart. And yes, you do need to conserve your energy. And I think if a fighter has fear, which I think Anthony Joshua does, of getting clipped, that's a good thing. A fighter should always, when they can, be aggressive, but also be aware of their own weaknesses. So either way, I mean, that was Peter Fury's comments on all of it. And he's absolutely correct, especially as well with that there's too many people in his corner. Who is it that Joshua's listening to? How can it be when you're in the middle of the ring, you're throwing a jab, you're missing, you're getting countered, your head snapping back, and you've got a member of your own team going, yeah, that's it, AJ. Well done, AJ. Well done for what? Still being on your feet? I don't know what it is that whoever it was that was shouting. I don't know who that was, by the way. I don't know if it was Rob McCracken. I don't know if it was Angel Fernandez or whoever else was in the corner. I don't know who it was. But there's one thing being a boxing trainer. There's another thing being an advisor. There's another thing being a cheerleader. Whoever was shouting through was being a cheerleader. You don't need those people in your corner. You don't need them there. You need, as Peter said, one trainer. There's one fighter, one trainer. That means one voice, one set of ears. Don't need other people's ears. A fighter, anyway, should always block out what's coming through, especially from the crowd. But the only voice that a fighter should be familiar with as the fight is going on is his or her own trainer. That's the only one. Anyway, that's Peter Fury's statement. As I said before, I totally agree with Peter Fury. I thought he broke it down fantastic. As I said before, no idea if there's an opening for Anthony Joshua to even just spend a few days with Peter. I don't know if that's even an option. But either way, of course, right now, Peter, he's got Savannah and he's got Huey both fighting on the 16th of October in my home city of Newcastle. So I'm sure I'll get to see them, hopefully at least. I'll get to meet them and maybe interview them. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so anyway, Peter Fury's statement. You drop me yours. Do you agree with him or not? For me, I do. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.